Hi, welcome to another episode of IQ's Take. So today we have one of our awesome EEVM alumni, and I'm Amanda, an IQ associate at EEVM. So I'll go ahead and let Naam introduce herself.
Sure. Hi, so I'm Naam, class of 2019, went to the business school, did information systems and operations management at Guizwara. So I graduated just last year, worked in New York for 1 year doing tech consulting, and then now I am part of an Emory founded startup called OrderSpot. This is going into my second month, and I do growth strategy and marketing for them. So I guess a little bit about my time at EEVM. I joined EEVM the spring of my sophomore year and started off as a marketing associate, then became director of marketing, and then finally director of HackATL 2018 in the fall of my senior year. So got some time with the club. I'm really excited to see that you guys are, keeping up the great work and expanding into new interesting projects like this podcast.
Awesome, thank you. So OrderSpot sounds really interesting. Just to start off, I was wondering if you can talk a little bit about your role, if there's like a day-to-day or if every day is like a little bit different and how that works out for you.
Sure, yeah. So OrderSpot, I guess I'll start with the company and then a little bit about what I do. So OrderSpot is a contactless ordering platform for restaurants, founded by an Emory alumni back in 2019. So we're a brand new team of four plus. We do have a few Emory interns with us, but essentially our goal is to help restaurants as well as hospitality venues, hotels, etc. digitize their operations by allowing customers to order and pay for their products and services directly from their phone. So imagine, I guess making technology available to those who don't have access before. So large restaurants, large companies, they have massive data science teams, tech teams who make their own apps to adapt to all these trends, big data, using mobile apps, contactless payments, all this stuff. But individual restaurants, especially, small businesses, mom and pop owners, they don't have the know-how, they don't have the ability to take on, such a task when running their day-to-day already really tough. So we want to help them do that. And so our product is a web app. So no app required. It's a URL. We set up online stores for restaurants where they can, put the link on their Instagram, make it a QR code, make it a QR menu, etc. The product's super versatile. So what I do is growth strategy, but really with any startup life, you kind of end up doing everything. So had a little bit of of an HR feel, taking in, we have 14 Emory interns actually. I interviewed all of them, but primarily for growth, we do a lot of promotional push. So I would say growth marketing, growth strategy, everything from inception to execution. So email campaigns, social media campaigns, SEO, paid ads, unpaid ads, a lot of, getting on the ground and calling people, calling up potential vendors, setting up automation for email campaigns to automatically send when something happens. What else? There is a little bit of research work, researching our competitors, researching, the space and especially rules and regulations around COVID. Yeah, I guess to equate it to, a more understandable term for EEVM, that would just be, director of marketing for something like HackATL, but the product you're selling is actually an actual startup and an actual, technology, and a lot of skills that I did at HackATL are so transferable. Literally, I'm doing email.
Awesome.
Using CRMs again. So yeah, that's kind of what I do.
That's awesome. That's so cool. I think OrderSpot, especially like during these times, I don't know if it's maybe like a new company in reaction to COVID, but I think it's so important during like these times of like contactless delivery. How do you have an option of people having like contactless ordering? And especially for like small business owners, I know they're being like disproportionately affected by COVID and they don't really have like the technology or means to really like scale and fix those problems. So I think this is a super great company and problem that they're solving. So is this kind of like early stage or is this like well within the product or kind of what stage did you get involved in?
Sure. So I got involved. I would say we're at the pre-seed stage right now. We're looking to raise in the next couple of months, but we were definitely a very early stage startup as a whole, and we are still in the, I guess, product concept is validated, but we are, beginning to grow our user base, grow our clients and enterprise vendors alike, and then just refining the product as we go. But I think the concept is validated. There is a need, there is a fit, just a matter of growth.
Gotcha. So is like your focus right now in your work kind of like growing it and kind of like expanding the product? Awesome.
Yes. Yep.
Awesome. So I saw that your previous role was in consulting. I was wondering, can you talk a little bit more about how you got involved and heard about OrderSpot and how that like transition was like? I know you mentioned like some skills transferred over from Hack ATL. Did anything in your more like corporate consulting role kind of help you in your current work?
Sure, absolutely. So I got involved with OrderSpot primarily because I was pretty good friends with the co-founder. So kind of knew about it as he was starting it up back in 2019. So kind of saw it when the idea wasn't even an ordering system.
Mm.
Um, saw the pivot, saw the very, very initial, customer discovery stages, and then just kept in touch with him. And then as for me, because of COVID and immigration, I had to leave the US, and that's why I left my
Mm.
job. And then the friend kind of reached out saying, we'd love you to join. And so that's how I got involved. In terms of transferable skills, I would say 100%. Learned so much from consulting, whether it's, industry knowledge or simply the way you work. I think from consulting, I learned to be extremely structured and extremely organized, whether it's, their own, and they immediately equate that to company, right? But truly, it could be an initiative at a company. It could be joining an early stage startup and helping them grow that. What needs to be net new. Don't think that's as healthy for those who have a vision, but not necessarily, the capacity or ability to truly bring it from scratch. And also, I feel like the world doesn't have enough space for that. Like everyone has
Mm.
ideas, right? And everyone's trying to,
Implement
IPO.
them.
Then there's only so much capital. There's only, so many customers. Like it's just a resource thing. So I really think it's
Mm.
taking initiative. You can even be entrepreneurial in a corporate environment, right? People start clubs, people start initiatives all the time. I think it's more about what you do and what you own as opposed to what what company you start. Um, and what was the second question? I forget.
Oh yeah. Just like when did you get interested in entrepreneurship or like how did you get interested?
Sure, yeah. So kind of born into a family of entrepreneurs. My mom started her own company, so kind of,
Mm.
saw and was involved in like the business world since I was really young. So always entertained the idea of, starting something of my own. And I frankly was also like a victim of that mindset that, oh, like to be entrepreneurial, I need to start something of my own. And, over time, just thought that that's unrealistic. Um, and I guess always kind of been into tech as well. As a kid, just really enjoyed like Photoshop, some basic HTML, CSS coding for this new website builder. Like just kind of been into that. Can't really pinpoint how or when. And then TBH, like really glad that I stuck to it because that has helped me, get to where I am in my career today. from, just dabbling with random software as a kid.
That's so cool. I also really love tech, so I can definitely understand the attraction. Um, so kind of more specific to your undergrad then, I know you were in Hack ATL and kind of directed that initiative. Do you think that also like really pushed your interest into entrepreneurship? And like, because I feel like Hack ATL, you're basically creating that entire product and experience, and it's another really huge way of being entrepreneurial, like you mentioned.
Sure, yeah, totally. So I think Hack ATL really is like a little startup within EVM. Like EVM alone is a startup as well, but because there was a timeline and because there were, clear customers or participants, there were, clear objectives, clear goals, clear financial constraints that you needed to meet. That definitely gave me like major startup vibes. And honestly, would looking back, I would have regretted it if I hadn't done it. Obviously high stress, like I skipped a few classes for it, but your question was how whether that was transferable or, sorry, I
Oh
forget.
yeah, just like did that influence your like interest in entrepreneurship or like influence I guess like you wanting to work in a startup in the future or like now?
Sure, yeah. So from Hack ATL, I definitely realized that I enjoyed creating platforms, like essentially Hack ATL was a platform for people to come together, right?
Mhm.
That's how I kind of realized, I like being an enabler for others to do things. Um, and so with Hack ATL, obviously lots of cool, like organizing the event itself, you had to think about participant experience. You need to think about growth, email campaigns, marketing, ambassador program. It's truly a holistic way to simulate a business without, I guess the true consequences of like going bankrupt, which was nice. So yeah, I really saw it as, a mini like startup trial run, and definitely could see myself doing something similar in the form of, creating an event or creating a platform for people to come together in the future.
Super cool. And I guess like now OrderSpot is basically a platform of helping businesses, small businesses, and helping people. So full circle.
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
so in terms of like maybe like your classes or is there anything else in like your undergrad experience that kind of helped you like form what you want to do post grad or what your interests are?
Sure. So to be honest, I wasn't the biggest school person. Always prioritized all my clubs over classes. Would not recommend, I think. I would say in my undergrad, I think low-key like clubs were my most memorable and like the most transformative experiences because you truly learn on the ground.
Right.
But if I were to speak about a class, one class that confirmed my interest in tech was marketing customer research. Uh, I think it's now called Customer Lifetime Value, taught by Professor Daniel McCarthy. So he himself started several companies that got acquired by Nike. It was all like analytics companies. And so he teaches about customer acquisition, customer churn, cohort analysis, and essentially just all the metrics and all the models that you should know as an entrepreneur. And I think a lot of classes at Goizueta are pretty traditional, corporate finance, sure, 101, whatever. But this one, I think, had a pretty specific focus on tech and marketing. So I'm like, oh, wow, like I actually like a class, which is this. So yeah, I guess that would be my class rec, and that would be, I think, my recommendation for anyone who's interested in marketing, but not simply just the creative side of it, but the technical data analysis side of it too.
Interesting. That's super cool. I'm not currently in the B school yet, but I will definitely look into that because that sounds really awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's cool.
yeah. So I guess for students who are interested in kind of pursuing the same path or roles that you have with like digital strategy consulting and with working eventually at a startup, do you have any, do you think there are certain skills that you think that it's really important for them to hone in on, or just any advice in that regard?
Sure. So I think skills definitely, people probably give recommendations all the time. You should learn how to code, right? You should, learn Excel. Obviously, I think these are the basics. I think it helps to be able to cover those foundations in an interview, right? It's so all these common advice that you get, Excel, PowerPoint, coding, I think it's, for today, it's bare minimum. Everyone will have that because everyone is receiving the same advice, really. So to stand out, I think you need to find your niche. Personally, from a tech point of view, my niche was design. In my interview, I was like, I'm a self-taught, Adobe Photoshop, Illustrator kind of person, no formal training. I absolutely was just like, my school didn't have it. None of my friends were doing it. I liked it, so I did it. And I think, that really helped because that showed personal interests, and then you actually, carried that forward. So I think coding, like, sure, like, be familiar with a few, like, know some concepts, I guess. Excel, if you're going into banking, necessary. PowerPoint, necessary for consulting. So, be good enough that keyboard shortcuts is my biggest advice. But in terms of skills, I think best thing to do is to start reading up on the news. That's where you'll start picking up, some trends and some incoming like platforms that marketers are using. Um, just stay on top of current trends, because it always helps to be able to talk about that, and even better if you say, oh, you've done it. So I guess, yeah, to wrap up, like, sure, coding, Microsoft Office, like, bare minimum. Then find your niche, whether it's, if you're into some crazy AI stuff, or design, or video editing. Like, I feel like people tend to kind of ignore all these more creative skills, but truly, like, in my consulting time, because of my design skills, I got pulled into projects. I like got great recs because I was an asset that the team needed, because everyone else knew how to code, everyone else knew how to do Excel, and then I was the only one who had Photoshop skills, right? So then the partner was like, okay, well, you're handling the whole branding of this global event that we're doing. So that's the client that I mentioned, where we flew globally for. We had to organize an event, so low-key high KTL vibes, for 300 something people in Spain and in Thailand. And I created the logo, created branding materials, sent the email invites for it. So truly, like, no skill is valued less than another. So, if you're into music, if you're into, some niche thing, like, truly just own it and be so good at it that they can't.
Ignore you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so cool. I think I know, like, there's a lot of skills like you mentioned that people always talk about, but it's super important to encourage like students to find like their individual niche, like you mentioned, or like an individual interest, because all interests and skills can be like leveraged and are equally important. And super cool that you're interested in design, because I actually love design as well, and I started trying to self-learn like Figma. So just like a side note, but that's super cool. And then I guess now kind of going to the future, do you have any plans moving forward, like specifically like maybe prioritizing new things in OrderSpot, or just kind of how do you see yourself moving forward, or if you have any specific goals?
Sure. So I do plan to stay with OrderSpot. I think I'm learning a ton, but immediately, working remotely and working in a small team is quite rough. So I'm planning to look for mentors. So trying to get into co-working spaces around here in Bangkok, and then trying to see about grad school, TBH, as everyone is during this pandemic. But yeah, starting with a GMAT, but that's still in the blurry distance. But yeah, immediately would love to, help OrderSpot raise another round. I think that'll be a really cool experience. But yeah, so OrderSpot for the foreseeable future is my answer.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time today to go through all the questions. It was so cool to hear from your background and how you grew up, and then to EEVM and your experiences, to now to OrderSpot and your future. So that's really awesome. And I'm sure I learned so much, and I'm sure our listeners learned so much as well, and are so excited to apply your advice. Have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, you too. Have a good night.